The world was at war. In the darkness of World War II, Nazi Germany sought a weapon that could end all hope: the atomic bomb. Hitler's scientists worked day and night, racing to split the atom before the Allies. The stakes were as high as they could be. Whoever controlled this power could force nations to surrender. Rumors spread across Europe. Allied leaders heard whispers of a secret German project. Spies brought back frightening news. Somewhere in Nazi-occupied Norway, a factory was making a strange liquid, heavy water. It was the key ingredient for a bomb that could destroy cities in an instant. Every day the threat grew. The Allies knew they had to act. If Hitler got the bomb first, the war could be lost. Millions more might die. The fate of the world hung by a thread, and that thread stretched to a snowy mountaintop factory in Norway. But hope was not lost. In the frozen north, a handful of brave men prepared to risk everything. Their mission: stop Hitler's atomic project, no matter the cost. The man at the heart of this story was Joachim Rønneberg. Young, determined, and resourceful, Rønneberg was a member of the Norwegian resistance. He had escaped Nazi-occupied Norway and joined the British Special Operations Executive, or SOE. Here, he met other patriots who shared his courage and desire to fight back. Rønneberg's team was small but mighty. There was Knut Haukelet, a tough engineer; Frederick Kaiser, quiet but clever; Birger Strömsheim, an expert in explosives; and several others. None were professional soldiers, but all had a burning love for their country. Their mission was clear: destroy the Vemork heavy water plant. Each man had lost something to the Nazis: family, freedom, or friends. They were chosen for their skills, but also for their grit. They endured harsh training in Britain and Scotland. They learned to ski, to climb, to survive on almost nothing. Above all, they learned to trust each other with their lives. As they prepared, the odds seemed impossible. But these men had something the Nazis could never understand: the will to fight for a free world, whatever the risk. Deep in the snowy mountains near the town of Rjukan stood the Vemork factory. It was perched above a steep gorge, surrounded by icy cliffs and guarded by Nazi soldiers. To most, it looked like any other industrial plant, but inside, scientists created heavy water, a rare form of water crucial for nuclear experiments. Heavy water, or deuterium oxide, was vital for making a nuclear reactor work. Hitler's scientists needed it to control atomic reactions. Without it, their dream of a bomb would die. Vemork was the only place in Europe making heavy water on a large scale. The Nazis guarded the factory closely. Fences, searchlights, and armed patrols watched for intruders. They knew the Allies might try to sabotage it. But they believed the plant was safe. It was remote, and the winter snows made it almost unreachable. That, they thought, was enough. But the Allies saw its weakness. If a small team could sneak in and destroy the heavy water, the Nazi atomic project could be set back by months, or even years. The journey to Vemork was harsh beyond belief. Rønneberg's team parachuted into the snowy wilderness. They landed miles from their target, in windswept mountains where temperatures dropped below -30°C. Their supplies were few, and their paths were treacherous. Every step risked frostbite or worse. They traveled by night, hiding by day. Snowshoes helped them cross deep drifts. Their food was simple: dried fish, biscuits, and whatever they could hunt. Sometimes, they ate moss scraped from rocks. At night, they huddled in shelters dug from the snow, sharing stories and hope. The land itself was their enemy. Avalanches, freezing rivers, and blizzards tried to stop them. Yet, every man pressed on. They thought of their families, of Norway's freedom, and of the danger if they failed. The team moved silently, leaving no trace for Nazi patrols. Weeks passed in this frozen nightmare. Morale was tested, but their bond only grew stronger. By the time they reached the outskirts of Vemork, they were more than soldiers. They were brothers. Before the attack, the team met in a hidden hut deep in the woods. They spread maps on the floor, tracing routes with trembling fingers. The plan was simple but deadly: sneak into the factory, plant explosives on the heavy water equipment, and escape before the Nazis could react. Timing was everything. Rønneberg divided them into small groups. Each man had a role. Some would keep watch, others would break into the basement, and the rest would set the charges. They rehearsed the route again and again. Failure meant certain death. Not just for them, but for their families back home. Training had taught them to move like shadows. They practiced climbing icy walls, crossing rivers, and working silently in darkness. Every detail mattered. The weight of the explosives, the length of the fuses, the sound of their boots on metal stairs. They checked and rechecked their gear. The night before the mission, nerves ran high. Some wrote last letters to loved ones, others prayed quietly. They all knew what was at stake, the fate of millions. At last, with a final handshake, they set out into the cold, ready for history. On the night of February 27, 1943, the team crept down the gorge toward Vemork. Snow drifted silently around them as they crossed a frozen river. Ahead, spotlights swept the ground and guards patrolled the bridge. The front was just too well protected, but Rønneberg had a daring plan. They crawled through a railway tunnel, then climbed a steep rock face under cover of darkness. Their breath froze in the air, but they made no sound. At the top, they squeezed through a barbed wire fence. Now, only a locked basement door separated them from their target. Strumsheim picked the lock while the others kept watch. Inside, machines hummed and pipes rattled. The men moved quickly, planting explosives on the heavy water cells. Every second counted. If they were caught, it would all be over. Sweat and fear mixed in the cold. With the charges set, Rønneberg lit the fuses. The team slipped back into the night, hearts pounding. Moments later, a thunderous blast shook the mountain. The mission was a success. They had struck a blow that would echo around the world. As the smoke cleared, Nazi soldiers rushed to the factory. They found twisted metal, shattered pipes, and pools of precious heavy water running down the floor. The saboteurs were gone, leaving only a British-made submachine gun, a silent message from the Allies. The Nazis were furious. They launched a massive hunt for the team, but the Norwegians vanished into the wild. For weeks, the Gestapo scoured the mountains. Locals risked their lives to help the saboteurs hide and escape. Thanks to their bravery, no one was captured. The destruction at Vemork crippled Hitler's atomic program. The loss of heavy water set the Germans back by months, if not years. Scientists scrambled to rebuild, but Allied bombing raids soon followed, making recovery impossible. The world breathed easier. Historians now agree, without Vemork's sabotage, the Nazis might have built a bomb before the Allies. The balance of the war and the future was changed forever. The heroes of Vemork returned to a life of secrecy. For years their names were hidden, their deeds unspoken, but in time, the world learned of their courage. Medals were awarded, and stories were told in schools across Norway. Their mission became a symbol of resistance and hope. Joachim Rønneberg lived to see a free Norway. He spoke often about the mission, stressing the power of teamwork and sacrifice. Knut Haukelid, Frederick Kaiser, and the others remained humble. They said they were just ordinary men who did what was needed. But history remembers them as giants. Their courage inspired others, from scientists to soldiers. The Vemork raid is now studied in military academies around the world. It showed that even the most impossible missions could be won by skill, planning, and heart. Today, the ruined halls of Vemork stand as a reminder. Freedom must sometimes be fought for in darkness, by heroes whose names the world almost never learns. The sabotage at Vemork did more than destroy machines and heavy water. It changed the course of history. Without the bomb, Hitler's dream of world domination died. The Allies had time to develop their own atomic project, and the war ended with Nazi Germany's defeat, not atomic fire. The courage of Rønneberg and his team showed what a handful of determined people can achieve. Their mission was not just about explosives or factories, it was about hope, freedom, and the power of the human spirit. They risked everything so that others could live in peace. The world owes them a debt it can never repay. Their actions remind us that even in the darkest times, heroes can rise and make history. The story of the Vemork saboteurs is a beacon for all who fight for justice, then and now. Their bravery helped save the world, and that is a legacy that will never fade.